Humanity's trek to the stars is made of the stuff of legends. But everything didn't always come up rainbows and hordas. In fact, many of humanity's first missions into space had unforeseen consequences for the crew involved, or the planets they encountered. And in today's episode, we take a look at some of those consequences. Hello and welcome to Trek Facts, a fun and fast informational web series on the fundamentals of Star Trek. Continuing last week's Trek Facts theme, this week's episode we're taking a look at some of humanity's unforeseen consequences that resulted from their ventures into deep space. I hope you enjoy. October 19th, 2032, Ares 4's mission to Mars is in progress. On the surface of Mars, two astronauts, Rose Kumagawa and Andrei Novakovich, explore Mars' surface, while Lieutenant John Kelly commands Ares 4 in orbit of the Red Planet. Suddenly, without notice, Ares 4 begins shaking, as though experiencing turbulence in space. However, while attempting to investigate the cause of this perceived turbulence, Kelly sees an elliptical-shaped disturbance heading right for the Ares. Suddenly, Ares 4 disappears, and all contact is lost. Stardate 53292.7. In the year 2376, the USS Voyager, under the command of Captain Catherine Janeway, encounters the same disturbance that Kelly encountered, while Voyager itself is attempting to get back to Earth after being stranded in the Delta Quadrant by an entity known as the Caretaker. Investigating this phenomenon, the USS Voyager sends a probe into it, and later discusses the probe's findings, discovering the remains of Ares 4. Janeway decides to send the Delta Flyer into the anomaly with an away team consisting of Commander Chakotay, Ensign Paris, and 7 of 9. And while attempting to recover the Ares, the Delta Flyer is badly damaged and Commander Chakotay is injured by a plasma discharge. Beaming over to Ares 4 in an attempt to retrieve one of its parts in order to repair the Delta Flyer, 7 of 9 is able to access the Ares log entries, where Kelly himself details the events that led him into the subspace phenomenon. With time running out, 7 downloads the Ares 4 logs and has herself and Kelly's body beamed back to the Delta Flyer, just in time to escape the anomaly. And once back on Voyager, the senior staff conduct a ceremony in Kelly's honor and launch Kelly's body back into space while Voyager continues on its course home. This, of course, is an obvious example of something that could not have been known or planned for. With primitive technology and only theories about what potential dangers space could hold, a subspace event such as this could not have been detected or analyzed correctly by 21st century humanity. However, since Voyager's return, Starfleet's historical records have been updated to reflect these findings, and John Kelly is generally seen as a pioneering hero by Earth's population. July 23, 2037, humanity launches the Charybdis, commanded by Colonel Stephen G. Ritchie. Its mission to attempt to leave the confines of Earth's solar system. It was mankind's third such attempt, and after NASA lost all contact with the vessel, it was assumed destroyed and the mission classified as a failure. Stardate 42652.4. In the year 2365, the USS Enterprise, under the command of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, after being contacted by a Klingon cruiser that had discovered something strange in the planet's atmosphere, enters orbit of the 8th planet in the Theta 116 solar system. Finding debris with markings in orbit of this planet, Picard orders it beamed up for analysis, only to discover the markings are that of the United States flag with 52 stars and the NASA logo. Continuing the investigation, the Enterprise's sensors detect a structure on the planet's surface, and in order to complete this investigation, Picard sends an away team to the surface consisting of Commander William Riker, Lieutenant Commander Data, and Lieutenant Worf. Once there, they discover the structure is not only being protected from the planetary elements, but that there is also an old-style revolving door in what seems to be the middle of nowhere. Entering the door, contact is lost with the away team, and while the crew aboard the Enterprise attempt to re-establish contact, Riker and his team explore the structure, which seems to be inhabited by human-looking life forms that call the structure the Royale. Conducting scans, Data quickly discovers that none of the humanoids are emitting life signs, and yet they exist. They are neither machine nor human. In fact, their entire surroundings seem quite artificial and overdramatic. Attempting to leave the Royale, the away team discovers that they can't. The revolving door they entered the structure in instead leads them right back into the hotel. Regaining contact with the Enterprise, Data reports that he has just detected human DNA readings in another part of the hotel. Heading to the room containing the DNA, the away team find Colonel Ritchie, having died approximately 283 years beforehand, and his corpse having been preserved by the sterile environment relatively intact. Lieutenant Worf discovers a novel on Ritchie's nightstand, and after Data reads it, the away team discover that the events occurring within the Royale seem to coincide completely and accurately with the novel. The away team also discover a diary, which contains only one entry by Colonel Ritchie himself. The Colonel had written that he was the sole survivor of an alien contaminant that killed all the others on board his ship. He then found himself in the Hotel Royale, exactly as described in the novel he found within his room. He managed to survive there for 38 years, learning that the aliens had created the hotel for him out of guilt, using a novel they had found on his ship as a guide to create the hotel. Unknown to these aliens, the recreation of the cliched and shallow characters of the book only served as a type of hell for Colonel Ritchie, and he welcomed death as it would be a release from it all for him. Realizing their only way out of the Royale was to become part of the story itself, Data is able to win enough money in the hotel's casino to buy the Royale, and as the novel itself explains, the away team, now posing as foreign investors, are able to leave the Royale and beam back to the Enterprise. It is unknown what species brought the Charybdis to planet Theta 116, or why they felt so guilty that they created an entire environment for Colonel Ritchie to live out his life in. Starfleet scientists have theorized that the aliens themselves may have been responsible for some type of damage to Colonel Ritchie's ship, and as such decided to care for its survivors. Though this theory is generally accepted, it does not explain why such an advanced race simply didn't tow the ship back into Earth's orbit, and leave it as an unexplained mystery for early spaceflight humanity to ponder. Whatever the reason, this is another example of a consequence that could not have been predicted or planned for. Humanity's ventures into deep space and unforeseen consequences that surrounded them weren't limited to pre-warp vessels only. Many of Earth and Starfleet's early missions would in fact have unexpected effects on those species and planets they encountered, as well as on those early pioneering crews themselves. Here are a few examples. In 2065, the SS Valiant embarked on a deep space exploratory mission. However, during this mission, the ship encountered a magnetic storm that threw her off course and into the energy barrier known as the Galactic Barrier, which sits at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Making its way out of the barrier, the Valiant discovered the barrier itself had caused the death of 6 of its crewmen, with 1 crewman seemingly injured, but recovering quickly, suddenly possessing extremely powerful psychokinetic abilities. Discovering this crewman to now be a danger to the ship, and perhaps humanity itself, the Valiant's captain gave the order to destroy his own ship, and launched a disaster recorder detailing the events the SS Valiant had experienced, as a warning about the galactic barrier for future humanity. In 2167, the USS Essex, under the command of Captain Bryce Schumer, was exploring a Class M moon which orbited Mabu 4. Operating out of Starbase 12 under the sector command of Admiral Utan Narsu, the USS Essex would be overtaken by non-corporeal lifeforms, criminals from the Uxmal star system that had been imprisoned on the moon's surface centuries beforehand. Attempting to escape their prison, these criminals would be almost successful in their attempt. However, the Essex itself was incapable of eluding the moon's electromagnetic storms, and as a result was destroyed with all hands. 229 officers and men were lost as a result. In 2368, the USS Enterprise D, under the command of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, detected a distress signal over 200 years old, which when analyzed, was discovered to be a distress signal sent by the Essex, and as a result the Enterprise investigated the moon. Once there, the Uxmal criminals attempted to take over the Enterprise, but were unsuccessful at the attempt. In 2168, the starship Horizon, on an exploratory mission, made contact with the pre-warp inhabitants of Sigma Iotia 2. This was before the Prime Directive came into existence. The Iotians themselves were a primitive society, but highly intelligent and a very imitative species. After spending some time with the Iotians, the Horizon's crew decided to leave a bunch of textbooks and tech manuals on how to make radio sets and other similar technology, along with other reference materials, such as a book called The Chicago Mobs of the 20s, published on Earth in the year 1992. Due to their imitative nature, this book would become somewhat of a Bible for the Iotians, and their culture would be radically altered to mimic this Bible. Shortly after leaving Sigma Iotia 2, contact with the Horizon was lost, and as a result, Starfleet was not informed of the exact details of the Horizon's contact with the Iotian people, until a radio transmission from the planet was received in 2268, and Starfleet Command sent the USS Enterprise, under the command of Captain James T. Kirk, to investigate. Upon arrival, Kirk and crew were aghast to discover the deep level of cultural contamination, but they were successful in redirecting the planet back to a somewhat natural and peaceful evolutionary course. However, log entries by Captain Kirk after the incident may point to a possible new source of planetary contamination. However, currently, this theory cannot be confirmed. These are but a few examples of some of the inherent dangers and unforeseen consequences that can occur when exploring space. It should be noted, of course, that these examples are the exception rather than the rule. In Starfleet's illustrious centuries of space exploration, many fascinating discoveries have been made which have furthered humanity's, Starfleet's, and the United Federation of Planets' understanding of the universe. So although an officer in Starfleet should be prepared for the unknown, they should not be afraid of it, instead accepting that extremely strange and amazing events may and do occur. And as a result of this, many consequences may unfold, but as an officer, they should accept those consequences and deal with them in a timely manner. Bear in mind, Starfleet is an exploratory and peacekeeping organization, which seeks out new life and new civilizations, boldly continuing to go where no one has gone before.